string instruments. These wooden masterpieces are created as a reminder of our willingness and love to create music. As early as 2500 BCE, man has created and perfected the art of making music through a piece of hollow wood and a string. And over the years, they have developed into what we know as a modern violin, viola, cello, and bass. These instruments are highly prized instruments, so how do you make one? Let's start from the very birth of a new violin. First, we must locate a tree. Spruce and maple would be preferable, but after you cut the wood, what will you do with it? Well, we have the answer. At the Chicago Luthier Cooperative, luthiers Dylan Cole, Tommy Coleman, and Claire Rowan have dedicated their lives to hand manufacturing instruments. They will guide us through the process of how an instrument is made. Here, Dylan starts us off by explaining the types of wood used in an instrument.
Okay, so the violin is made of, typically, you have three main woods on it. We get them from different suppliers in chunks just like this. And they come straight out of the tree, kind of looking like this. This is spruce, and so that's what we use for the top because it's light and very resonant. The back and the ribs and the neck and the scroll are all made out of maple. These typically come from European sources.
So some of the tools that we use are little finger planes. I have all these little finger planes right here. People really like them. They go down to really tiny small ones. Even, I think I have one smaller than that. So on the maple, because we have you can see some of the flame in the wood, it can be really challenging. The wood doesn't want to cooperate and we get tear out. So one of the things that we can use is a toothed blade. You have a little toothed blade and some of them have just straight blades. If the maple wood doesn't want to cooperate, if it tears out a lot, I can use one of these tooth blades. And I just through a trained eye and through experience, I can look at the profile of the plate and decide where I want to remove wood. And I can use one of these little planes and I can just start removing wood from a certain section. Then at that point, what I will do is I will grab, we have little metal scrapers. This is just a thin piece of metal with a sharp edge on it. And in order to remove all of these tooth plane marks, I can use the scraper to literally just scrape away wood. You can see the little shavings that leaves. So it's very tedious. That's one of many reasons a handmade violin costs a lot of money compared to a production guitar, let's say. There's just so much individual handwork involved. So once I get done doing the top of the arch, then I can move on to the inside of the arch and I can establish the thicknesses. And there again, that's something I want to make sure that the instrument is structurally sound, but also will produce a good tone.
So a violin starts with the rib assembly, specifically with blocks on a form that sits inside. And then we have the blocks, the linings, the ribs to get an outline for our plate, which is the spruce and a maple. And then after the box of the instrument is formed, we carve scrolls and necks and set them together.
So we have a block of wood like this, and we have a little neck template, and so we will lay the template on our block once we dress it to certain dimensions and make sure everything is flat and square. And we can use this template to trace the outline of the neck onto our block of wood. Then from there, we can go to the bandsaw, and we can we like to use dust collection because we like to be nice and safe and healthy. And we can use the bandsaw to cut out the shape of the neck scroll. So from there, we're left with just kind of a square block that's in the shape of a neck. I don't have one to show you, but from there we can use gouges. Once we get the neck blank cut out on the bandsaw, you're just left with just a square block that's in the profile of the shape, of the scroll shape and the neck shape. And we can use gouges. These are Violin Maker's scroll gouges. They come in a nice set.
So we glue a fingerboard onto our scroll and scroll block before we set the neck so that we can make sure that the neck and fingerboard line up to the middle of the instrument and the bridge so it's not tilting in the wrong directions. To set the neck, people will glue on the back side, but I only glue on the top plate and set it in the mortise at the top so I can cut in both directions. And the neck set is really important because you want your fingerboard to line up with your bridge so that the strings are easy to play and feel okay for your hands.
Okay, so once we get the violin finished, almost as difficult as it is to make the instrument, it's equally as important and difficult to varnish it. It serves two purposes. The first is primarily to protect the wood itself, seal it and keep it protected from the elements, be that rosin, dirt, sweat from your hands. But then the other part of it is it just makes it look nicer. So you can think of varnishing in maybe 2 or 3 parts. The first is the treatment to the wood. We typically like to tan the instrument by leaving it out either in the sun or under UV lights to simulate, 50, 60, 100 years of age on it. After that, you get what's called the ground, which is any material that we put on the surface of the wood to both seal the pores and to enhance the natural look of the wood. And once you have everything sealed, then you can get along with the actual varnish process. Now there's oil varnish, which includes linseed oil in the mix and then requires turpentine to dissolve and is cured with UV. And then there's spirit varnish, which is alcohol-based, usually uses shellacs and other resins. Both are equally fine, although oil varnish is more common in modern makers. So the key is to get enough coats of varnish on that it looks nice and it's protected, but not too many coats of varnish that everything becomes dampened or too stiff. So it's a time-consuming process, but well worth the wait.
And now we have created an instrument. However, time and effort still has to be put into repairing and maintaining an instrument. Cellist Timothy Archbold recently had his cello repaired, and he understands the importance of the work that the luthiers at the Chicago Luthier Cooperative do.
Well, this is my baby. I've had my baby for about 2 years now. And it's recently went to the shop. The strings were getting really high, and so they had to do a whole heap of work on the neck to straighten out the neck and adjust the angle of the fingerboard so that the strings aren't too high. It was really important. I couldn't play up high, so I had to have the cello looked at, and they did a lot of work. It wasn't necessarily for a sound reason, but this is a really old cello. This is from 1750, and for me to be able to play it to its full potential, it needed to be adjusted, and now it's definitely playable. So, and it will be good for another 50 to 100 years, and see how it goes from there. And it sounds a little bit better. I've had I've got a new bridge on it and a new sound post, and it just always gives it a bit more life and excitement.
These instruments are created with an elevated amount of care and precision. Because of this, they can be sold in the range of $100,000 to even millions. They are one of the most fundamental pillars that music has been built upon, and thanks to the Chicago Luthier Cooperative, they will continue to do so for many years to come.